Hitler, Madonna, Marilyn Manson, Kiss, and insects. What's the connecting element here? Could it be shock value and controversy, pushing boundaries, maybe provoking strong reactions? That would be a fair assessment, and it would be a lot to cover in a short amount of time. So we're going to narrow it down, and we're going to talk about something that was banned in England and worn by witches. We're going to talk about the fascinating history of a 3-inch product that's used every day and was used as a symbol of status and power, a strong act of defiance, and a weapon of rebellion against fascism, and also a badge of empowerment. We are going to dive in the fascinating and bizarre history of lipstick. It turns out that this little tube of color that we put on our lips to look more attractive has an extensive and interesting story behind it. Don't worry, guys, it's not a makeup tutorial that we're going to watch here, but I'm sure that you'll find out something new that you didn't know before, that you might find interesting about symbolism, culture, history, maybe some science, and how simple things can affect change the courses of history. So we're going to talk about the earliest beginnings of lipstick that may shock and possibly gross you out. We're going to talk about the roles that it's played in history and culture. And we're going to talk about what it's evolved or not evolved to what it is today. So let's dive in. According to encyclopedia.pub, adapted from a peer-reviewed paper about cosmetics by Saeed Mawazi in March of 2022, the earliest known use of color applied to the lips was around 2500 BC in ancient Mesopotamia. This would be along the Tigris River, modern-day Iraq, Syria, and Turkey. Just to get a visual of where this is going on. Historians believe that it was an element that was used in fertility rituals, and it was worn by Queen Shubad. She wore a crimson color made from crushed red rocks and white lead. It became so popular that people would be buried with cockle shells full of it. In ancient Egypt, Egyptians wore red ochre mixed with resin to color their lips. And Cleopatra had her own custom colors made out of crushed carmine bugs. Carmine is still used today and is the red food coloring that can be found in Skittles, Good and Plenty, strawberry yogurt, grapefruit juice, and some other things. And yes, still red lipstick. Now, maybe you've heard that just recently this year, the FDA has banned synthetic red dye number 5. That's not the carmine bug. Carmine bug is a natural ingredient. So we've been eating it. So far, so good. So I think we'll be okay. Little gross, but we're good. In ancient Egypt, it was around 5,000 years ago that in what is now known as southern Iran, the Sumerians used a blend of gemstones, wax, and oils that would most resemble what we recognize as lipstick today. According to the article in Historians Magazine, Red Lipstick in Ancient History by Anna Redondo in 2025, lip color and other makeup was worn by both men and women as a show of status, power, and beauty. Now, it wasn't always viewed in such a positive light, because in 1770, in England, the Parliament proposed that they would allow women to be tried for witchcraft if they wore red lipstick, because they believed that it was considered a trick to seduce men into marriage. But the bill didn't pass. Years before that, though, Queen Elizabeth I popularized red lips. She believed it could repel evil spirits and ward off death. However, it was rumored that she was buried with layers of it on her lips. Rumored, not fact, but and the reason you may see her pictured with white face and red lips, she suffered from smallpox when she was a child, and that left scarring on her face. So she would put on the thick white makeup and the red lips to, as I said, ward off evil spirits and death. Now, moving forward in history, during World War II, it was well known that Hitler hated red lipstick on women. So Allied women wore it in defiance of Hitler's restrictions. Cosmetic companies began creating shades of red and named them names like red, Victory Red and Montezuma's Red, which is my favorite because up until the 1980s in the Marine Corps, it was mandatory to wear it in the dress uniform because it matched the red cord on the cover, or hat, as you would call it. And it was in our uniform regulations that it would be worn with the dress uniform. But, so it was worn in defiance, not only in defiance of Hitler's regime, but also during the war, women had replaced men in the workforce. So their pride and their independence was elevated. Most famously was a picture that you may recognize from the 1941 is Rosie the Riveter, pictured in her work clothes and her red lips, her pose of strength, and women became more independent, got out of the house, were doing more hard labor, but they still, during the war, they still wanted to rebel with the red, showing their support for the troops with the red lips. So they wore it in their work clothes. Now, in more recent times, both red and black lipstick have been symbols of rebellion, empowerment, and expressions of individuality. As within the goth culture, the rock group Kiss, Marilyn Manson, and pop icons such as Madonna and Taylor Swift. On the flip side of rebellion was still the soft, glamorous wearing and femininity, beauty side of the wearing of the red lipstick, as with Marilyn Monroe and Madonna 2.0. She had a glamour stint there. Now, the ingredients now that are in the most lipstick and chapstick are made of any combination of wax, pigment, preservatives, fragrance, shea butter, carmine still, artificial color, jojoba oil, castor oil, lanolin, mineral oil, petroleum, and polybutene, polybutene. Now, with all these things, these ingredients in it, there have been and still are environmental concerns and health concerns regarding the use of cosmetics, especially lipsticks. According to the NIH, National Health Industry, potential health risks of using lipstick include exposure to heavy metals such as lead, cadmium, and chromium. These can pose risks of neurotoxicity, organ damage, and cancer with excessive use. Not as severe, but still concerns are the toxins that can cause headaches, allergic reactions, and other long-term health problems. An article in Clean Hub identifies the environmental impact of cosmetics. The biggest challenge being the packaging waste. About 95% of the packaging is thrown away. That's a lot, 95%. According to the Environmental Investigation Agency, about 633 species of marine species are affected by the microplastics, and that end up in the waterways. And the cosmetic industry itself is also considered one of the largest market contributors to water waste, along with the ocean pollution. So, but the good news is that a lot of the cosmetic brands are starting to reconsider their environmental impact. So they're producing biodegradable packaging for lipsticks, which, by the way, was also done in the 1940s during the war because they needed the metal tubing and the plastic tubing melted down to support the war efforts. So they also had the cardboard tubing. So we kind of went back in history a little bit there. So that is, here we have the history and makeup of makeup. Maybe we could say that lipstick could be called tenacity in a tube.